Welcome back to Psycho Turtle Collectibles as we get into the third and final round of our Swiss challenge here, where we have XjeraldX facing off against PsyRhino.
And Gerald, he did get the second place in the cup, so looking to close things out in the challenge as he is undefeated. If he wins this, he is definitely the undisputed winner of this challenge. But PsyRhino can force kind of maybe a multi-way tie, and that's where things get pretty interesting. But we did see PsyRhino earlier against CTU, that's his team on that left-hand side, and Gerald rocking that Altaria and the Feraligatr. Pretty uncommon today's meta, particularly the Feraligatr, but he's been playing it pretty consistently, and it may pay off pretty well for him. Let's look at the matchup into this team in particular.
Feraligatr has tons of neutrality across the board. That's generally what its shtick is. But with this meta being and Wigglytuff around, a lot of Licky Licky and Guzzlord, that kind of scares it away because of the resisted Shadow Claws, of which PsyRhino does have two of those in the Wigglytuff and the Guzzlord. But it's not all said and done because Feraligatr does win the 0 matchup against Wigglytuff just because of how hard those Hydro Cannons hit, and then the Guzzlord does of course have to watch out for the Ice Beam.
Yeah, we'll see if Gerald ends up leveraging it more or less. I mean, he should be able to grab shields off a lot of things, but at the same time, winning switch advantage with it might be a different story. Might set it up for a 2-shield advantage in the end game, though, or maybe he just bench it. We'll see how that goes. So he's running the double Sire action as well, Quagsire and Clodsire, and of course he's got double Flyers on top of it. So he's very, very strong into Quagsire is the main moral of the story. Double Flyers, the Feraligatr, a mirror matchup, and Wigglytuff's fairly neutral. It's really the Clodsire that you have to avoid it. So trying to leverage this Clodsire as much as possible. I think that might pay off really handy for Gerald, as that Clodsire is really not scared of anything else. But here we go. It is going to be the Guzzlord into Quagsire to lead things off, and you can see Gerald running that double water action.
It's going to be a good matchup for PsyRhino, as Gerald is staying in this and is looking to reach for the Stone Edge. PsyRhino, of course, outpaces to that Brutal Swing, and is going to be firing off that first. Gerald happy to let that go, as he can comfortably take one Brutal Swing. He's going to over farm, fire off that Stone Edge right before they get to the Brutal Swing, but no, he doesn't. He pivots into Corviknight, hoping to catch a Brutal Swing, and PsyRhino wouldn't say it was necessarily a catch, but does fire off this energy.
Yeah, it's actually pretty good for Gerald, as there's not really a clear answer for this Corviknight in the back for PsyRhino, and he's going to try to farm up, back up a little bit of energy before maybe pivoting out, or maybe he just stays in this matchup. That's the real question, as Quagsire for Gerald has a ton of energy loaded in the back, and that could play really handy for him as you look at the back line for PsyRhino.
PsyRhino firing off yet another Brutal Swing. Gerald's perfectly fine letting this go. He knows he can tank it, and he's going to start spamming off Air Cutters in return. We're going to see if he gets a little bit of luck go his way and he gets an Air Cutter boost, but not before PsyRhino reaches yet another Brutal Swing. So he decides to completely stay in this matchup, and we'll see how he ends up dealing with all that Quagsire energy later, but he waits a turn and makes a beautiful catch of the Air Cutter onto his own Corviknight. That's a fantastic play.
Yeah, great understanding mechanics from PsyRhino as well, to avoiding the possibility of Gerald even going for that payback, catching that resisted Air Cutter, but he is going to throw up the first shield. This is just going to be an Aqua Tail from Gerald, but he has to respect the energy from the Quagsire as it is loaded. Gerald still having 2 shields of his own, and chooses not to throw the move right away, and forcing a shield against the Air Cutter, which is actually pretty good for PsyRhino.
We saw Gerald reaching for that Stone Edge. It'll be interesting to see if he does actually throw it here or go for the Aqua Tail spam. But no, he does full send that Stone Edge, knowing that if he's able to land this, he should just be able to take out with an Aqua Tail next, which he does. And I actually don't know if this is Aqua Tail range, but Gerald possibly thinks so, or he just wants to get this damage off and try and remove this Corviknight from the field of play.
Yeah, it looked like PsyRhino's trying to go for a catch there on the Aqua Tail. Unfortunately, not able to get to it. Tries to get more energy, and Gerald forcing the energy out of the Corviknight in this head-to-head matchup. It's actually not bad for Gerald at all, as he's going to get too much more value out of this Corviknight. You can see PsyRhino going for the uncharged, maybe wants to get energy himself, but that Air Cutter resisted still enough to KO, and now Gerald can get a slight entry lead with either of his Pokemon in the back. Let's see which one he chooses. He opts in for the Feraligatr, and there it is, and it's a matchup he wants. He just has to avoid this Stone Edge damage, or otherwise going to be in a great spot. However, PsyRhino can still bait with the resistant Aqua Tail. The real question is, does he go for it now? It's a big risk if Gerald doesn't shield. The game is essentially over, as a huge neutral hard-hitting Hydro Cannon is going to be thrown. And Gerald has a decision to make. Does he shield the move or not? And he does it at the very last second. It's going to be a huge Stone Edge shield. Massive for XjeraldX.
saving so much health on that for Alligator. PsyRhino only able to reach a parting Aqua Tail, and Xjerald's for Alligator will shrug this off, saying, this is no problem, and I'm just going to load up on energy to start threatening that Guzzler, which the Guzzler not quite in Hydro Cannon range, but it looks like that's what Xjerald is going to go for. He does successfully get the bait as PsyRhino throws up the shield. Now, can he potentially reach the next Ice Beam CMP tie? Will he have to watch for a catch? No, he just opts for a second Hydro Cannon.
Yeah, this should be a little bit short of KOing, but it'll put him in Shadow Claw range. As you can see, 2 Shadow Claws should do it. Can he get there or not? And Gerald just throwing in the Quagsire instead. The Mudshot down does take out the Corviknight, and you have the Aqua Tail loaded. Even if PsyRhino throws a move, then he still has to take out the for Alligator in the end. And for Alligator, coming to play in game number 1 for XjeraldX.
For Alligator, closing strong, doing what it should, but that Shadow Quagsire, I don't even know how many moves it got to that matchup. That amount of energy that it stored from the beginning, then brought in afterwards, put in so much work there for him.
Yeah, definitely. And the tough part there for PsyRhino is he didn't really have a Corviknight answer, right? But if you look at his team, he doesn't really have Corviknight answers in general, except for that Fortress. He has, you know, some neutral / losing matchups across the board and a mirror matchup. So because of that, PsyRhino was really going to struggle into this Corviknight, right? And I don't know how he's been dealing with Corviknight throughout the tournament, but if you can't bring that Fortress, and I mean, it is tough, right? You got double ground you have to contend with, then it's going to be a free game for Corviknight for Gerald every single game. I don't know if PsyRhino makes that adjustment for game 2 or tries to play it neutrally with, you know, some Quagsire action, some Guzzlord action, but that definitely gave a lot of breathing room for Gerald in that first game.
There's definitely a lot of pressure against that Shadow Fortress there, and I don't know if that makes it kind of a necessary bring in that sense to try and take that risk and get yourself back into this game, especially with that Gator and Corviknight that we saw from Xjerald's side.
Alright, here we go. Fortress into Quagsire. You can see the pressure, and PsyRhino had to bring the Fortress, but he runs it into the worst possible lead, and it's going to be that Quagsire, and this is going to spell trouble for PsyRhino as Gerald, he has a strong backline in the back too, for everything that PsyRhino has. He's not going to shield the first Aqua Tail though. That's going to make things a little bit easier for Gerald. Oh, and he catches a resisted air cutter. What PsyRhino could do, Gerald could do better in this game number 2 as he catches an air cutter himself to start things off, and that's going to really shore up this matchup for Gerald.
Gerald wanting to get some chip damage onto that Corviknight first, since he didn't have a fantastic answer in the backlines here, and he needs to keep alignment with that Shadow Quagsire and the Shadow Fortress, but him bringing in his own Corviknight here, as we see, PsyRhino did bring the Wigglytuff, which will be resisting those Shadow Claws from the Alligator, so we'll have to see, because this could be a very interesting endgame as it comes along.
Yeah, and Gerald throwing right before the switch timer's up for PsyRhino, doesn't want to risk himself getting locked into the Fortress, but here comes the Fortress getting slight energy lead. These Volt Switches are chunking for super effective damage, but Gerald finally is able to swap out of there, and now he gets the matchup he wants. However, Fortress does have a good chunk of extra energy here, and there's only neutral damage against the Fortress, so it's not too bad of a matchup. The main benefit is you are resisting all these Volt Switches, and the pacing for Quagsire are just so fast, as the first move is going to be thrown. Does PsyRhino throw up a shield? He's going to let it go.
Because the first Sand Tomb does drop the defense, this next one is going to do a ton of damage. It may potentially put Gerald in Volt Switch downrange. We'll have to see. But Gerald also has a ton of energy on that low health Corviknight, so he might be able to put some work into the Wigglytuff from here, while as we're going, Gerald spams off another Aqua Tail into the Fortress. It is enough to take it out, and here comes the Wigglytuff. One charm does it, as he's not able to get a parting Aqua Tail.
Yeah, PsyRhino just to hope there is no Clodsire in the back, and there indeed is not, as now he finds himself in a decent position. There's still the Corviknight in the back for Gerald for a potential catch, but the same thing can be said about PsyRhino. Hydro Cannons are going to do a good chunk of damage. Does it go for the Swift, or does it go for the potential Ice Wind debuff? I don't know if the Ice Wind debuff is worth it, as it's going to be more energy, but it could potentially force Gerald to swap out here. The thing is, I think 2 Hydro Cannons from this range still may KO even debuffed, but we'll see if it changes things or not, as the charm damage is starting to add up against this for Alligator and Gerald. You can see trying to get to 2 more Hydro. Actually, he needs 3 more Hydro Cannons because there's still the shield on the side of PsyRhino, and maybe the Icy one was exactly what he needed. Oh no, there's so much energy on Gerald's Corviknight still.
So Gerald able to spam off these air cutters now and reset that debuff that his Feraligatr had. Looks like a second air cutter will KO, so PsyRhino is going to have to throw up his final shield here. And I don't know, does he go for the charm down? If he's able to get the charm down, he may just take this game. But we'll see what he is able to do. Charm. He's able to get the charm down. He's one more away from the back-to-back Swifts. He under-taps the move, and that is going to allow XJerald to outpace this next Hydro Cannon. We're going to have to see how PsyRhino plays this out.
Yeah, I thought maybe he was going to go for... Oh, wait, he has Air Cutter Bank, though. I completely forgot about it. I don't know if Gerald forgot about it either, but well played from PsyRhino to take out this Feraligatr and force a game number 3 against Gerald in what looked like a really tough matchup, but he found a way.
Especially with that much of an atrocious lead, leading the Shadow Fortress into the Shadow Quagsire, fighting, clawing his way back, and able to bring this matchup to a third one. Man, really well played by PsyRhino there.
Yeah, and that was after Gerald even caught an air cutter on his own Corviknight. Gerald won the lead, won the counter swap as well, but the thing is, even though Quagsire has a great matchup in the Fortress, the Wigglytuff just core breaks your back line, right? You got rid of the Quagsire, which is neutral, and the Corviknight, which is a positive matchup, and you just have a Feraligatr in the back. Feraligatr being probably the MVP for Gerald in first game, but didn't perform nearly as well in that second game. And now here we go. We have a chance for PsyRhino to upset Gerald, as Gerald is undefeated in this third and final round of the challenge. And if he does, things will get interesting when we look at the tiebreaker scores across the board for the remaining players in this challenge.
This is surely going to be a fantastic matchup either way about it. And I'll be interested to see if PsyRhino goes back to that Shadow Fortress, double down. Hey, I got aligned poorly first game and it still worked out for me. Therefore, if it happens again, I can play out of it as I've done it. But if I get a good matchup, say, on Gerald's Corviknight, which he was liking to bring, or his Gator, which he also liked to bring both Game 1 and Game 2, then he should be well off in this next matchup.
Yeah, let's see how these players are going to make their third and final adjustments here for the game. As here we go, game number 3 in the final game of the Psycho Turtles Challenge. It's going to be Guzzlord into Shadow Quagsire. It doesn't really get more neutral than that. Both have a ton of play into each other, but let's see how they're going to play out their backline matchups.
Looks like Gerald ran back the Game 2 line here in Game 3. Hard calling, I don't know, maybe that Fortress lead again from PsyRhino, but PsyRhino shifted. He put the Shadow Fortress in the back, and Gerald's back line is very, very soft to this, so he's going to have to try and bait this out. He does. He pivots into Corviknight, and out comes that Shadow Fortress.
Alright, well, these full switches are definitely adding up. You can see Gerald going for this first move. Do we think that PsyRhino is going to spend the shield or not? Zero question. No, he doesn't shield the neutral air cutter. That's going to be a great bait call from PsyRhino, and now comes the Rock Tomb to debuff. After this, the payback may not even be enough to take out Gerald's or to take out the Fortress on the side of PsyRhino, but Gerald only a few air cutters away from getting to that payback. He does get it to it at the last second. Oh wait, hold on. He doesn't throw the move though, and the Sand Dune is going to be thrown from PsyRhino instead. Gerald just going to have to let a full payback energy on the Corviknight go completely down. Tries to go for maybe the overfarm here, but he's already almost capped on energy, so things are looking really good for PsyRhino as he's feeling himself with those nods.
Gerald potentially trying to throw on good timing there, ends up biting him as PsyRhino does under tap that Sand Tomb. He's able to get a very nice mud shot down after landing the Aqua Tail, and this Quagsire with a ton of energy could threaten this Guzzlord if it does come back in, and we'll see. He's just full sending the Stone Edge. PsyRhino has 2 shields. He will give up the first Protect Shield here, and it is a good one to give up, as that Stone Edge would do massive damage.
Alright, let's see if this Feraligatr can do one last favor for Gerald, as the second Stone Edge is reached from PsyRhino. Does he opt to shield? No, he lets it go. Now you are definitely in Hydro Cannon range. However, you are loaded on energy on this Guzzlord, and Gerald going to throw up the first shield. Feraligatr, not the bulkiest of Pokemon, so definitely going to have to withstand as much damage as possible, but there's still a whole third Pokemon that Gerald hasn't even seen yet. On top of it, we got back brutal swing loaded for PsyRhino. Absolutely brutal for this Feraligatr.
Two Shield for Alligator can put in a ton of work, but one thing it can't do is easily Shadow Claw down a Guzzlord, as the Guzzlord, spamming off these brutal swings, takes that second shield from XJerald, as in comes the Corviknight, and up a shield, this Corviknight is going to just have a fun time spamming off these air cutters.
Yeah, air cutter, not enough to KO, but the Sandtax afterwards should be able to do it, and unfortunately, there is still a shield to contend with, and for Alligator, just not strong enough. Gonna go for the undercharge Ice Beam for a little extra flair, but unfortunately this is going to be for Alligator's last dance as PsyRhino takes the reverse sweep against XJerald and takes a 2-1 victory to not only end XJerald's undefeated streak, but I think we have a multi-way tie, so we're going to wait to see from our judges on who the actual winner of the challenge is. It's going to be a lot on tiebreakers, and maybe even comes down to a coin flip if the tiebreakers are completely even.
Xjerald played really well there, but not enough to overcome PsyRhino and that Shadow Fortress and Guzzlord pairing. But PsyRhino throwing a little wrench into the thing, into the standings, taking a very good win there, and we'll see how it turns out.
Yeah, definitely. And, you know, interesting showing for sure, right, from all the players. For Alligator, I don't know, like you said, right? And I know you're a big for Alligator aficionado, but in this current meta, in this meta, I don't know if it's particularly it or not. I mean, it had some good showing in that first game, but the typings that you had to run into, the dark types, the normal types all over the place, a lot of electric or pseudo-electric users, makes it a little bit hard to play.
You can see that. I had a lot of play game 1 there, but PsyRhino adjusted game 2 and game 3 because he knew that for Alligator was his MVP pick so far, and that XJerald was going to use it to the best of his ability.
Yeah, definitely. I think our final pairing might still be playing right now, so I don't know if we'll have the results anytime soon. But what we can do is be sure to follow Psycho Turtles on social media and on Twitch, and they will be posting the results on X as well. So stay tuned for that. But thank you all for tuning in both to the challenge and the cup. It was a lot of fun time casting with you as well, K-Pine.
Thank you.
And that's going to do it for us.
It's been great casting with you as well.
Absolutely. Right. Well, be sure to support Psycho Turtles wherever you can, especially here in the SoCal area. And until the next one, we'll catch you all later. Peace out.